Why does this keep happening here?
Not again in Colorado.
It's been 1 week since tragedy struck our state again.
Well, I was afraid to see any face that I knew.
How can we break the long, ugly cycle in Colorado?
I think there is a gun culture that exists in Colorado that doesn't exist in some of the other states.
What is causing this? How do we stop this?
Our Denver7 investigative team is taking your questions to the people who've lived through tragedies themselves. And vaccines for nearly all Coloradans.
We're now reaching this wide level of vaccine distribution.
But the governor says patience is key.
Not everybody can get it in that first week, right?
10 lives gone in an instant. By this time last week, we still weren't sure exactly how many people had been killed at that King Soopers off Table Mesa Drive. Instead, every Coloradan got that same pit in their stomach, wondering how many lives we've lost this time, and if they knew any of the victims. Thank you for joining us for Denver7 News at 6. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. And today we remember those 10 people we lost in Boulder a week ago. Mothers, fathers, daughters, and sons among the victims.
It is a tragedy that's played out all too often in Colorado, and since 1993, there have been 7 mass shootings in our state, the first happening at an Aurora Chuck E. Cheese.
Tonight, Denver7 investigative reporter Jennifer Kovaleski takes a closer look at Colorado's painful past.
The darkest moments often bring out the best in people. People who knew the victims.
Well, I was afraid to see any face that I knew.
People who never even met them, but wanted to shine a light on those hurting.
I hope that flowers can do something.
These growing memorials next to scenes of the horror of a mass shooting. This ugliness we know all too well in Colorado. Going back to Columbine High School in 1999, where 13 lives were lost.
Colorado is right near the top of these mass tragedies happening.
Frank DeAngelis was the principal at the time of the Columbine shooting. He says the shooting in Boulder took him right back to that day.
Why do you think these keep happening in Colorado?
It saddens me, and it's just trying to find the answers, and I think that's where everyone is right now after these events. What is causing this?
And Columbine would just be the beginning of Colorado's painful history of mass shootings. A gunman opened fire in 2007 at the Youth with a Mission in Arvada, and hours later at the New Life Church in Colorado Springs. 4 innocent lives were taken. The midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises was the next target of terror.
I got people running out of the theater, they're shot.
The shooter fired into a packed Aurora theater, killing 12 and an unborn baby on July 20th, 2012. A day forever seared in Heather Dearman's memory.
It's inspiring to come here, it really is.
Dearman's cousin Ashley Moser was paralyzed in the shooting. Moser's unborn child and 6-year-old daughter Veronica were killed. She's sitting on a stone in their memory.
Like looking at the 13 climbing towards the heavens.
A statue of 13 cranes representing all of the victims.
It reminds you that their love is still alive.
Dearman helped bring the 720 Memorial to life in a garden across from Aurora City Hall.
Build it for people who have gone through tragedy and need to find a place of peace.
A place that has even more meaning now.
But I don't think we could have ever imagined that so many people would need to come here, especially from our own state.
Not again in Colorado.
Like so many, Sandy Phillips is asking why there are so many mass shootings in Colorado. A Denver Post analysis from 2019 shows the Denver metro has the 3rd most mass shootings per capita in the country.
I think there is a gun culture that exists in Colorado that doesn't exist in some of the other states.
Phillips' daughter Jessie was also killed in the Aurora theater shooting. When she heard the news about Boulder, she made a devastating connection.
Ironically, her teacher that taught journalism, her husband was killed in this shooting.
She's talking about Kevin Mahoney, who lost his life at the Boulder King Soopers. Phillips says his wife taught her daughter journalism at Metro State.
It's 1 degree of separation for all of us.
They now join thousands of other people who are survivors of events of mass shootings, each with their own unique stories.
It just is astonishing how many of those we know about.
And the pain wouldn't stop in Aurora. 3 more were killed and 9 were injured in 2015. A man with a history of mental illness shot up a Planned Parenthood in Colorado Springs. And then there was the shooting at STEM School Highlands Ranch.
This one here was taken when he was a...
John Castillo's son Kendrick died a hero after 2 of his classmates shot him inside the school. 8 others were injured. And now, more heartbreak, this time in Boulder. The 3rd deadliest mass shooting in Colorado with 10 lives lost. As the community tries to heal, no one wants to see any more memorials for victims of gun violence in Colorado.
You never think it's going to be your town.
I'm Denver7 investigator Jennifer Kowaleski.
And it is important to note that we are defining a mass shooting as 4 or more people killed or injured, not including the gunman. And that is why we did not include, for example, the Thornton Walmart shooting. But 3 innocent lives were still taken from our community on that day.
A funeral mass for Officer Eric Talley today at the Cathedral Basilica of Immaculate Conception in Denver. And at one point, more than 1,000 people were watching the live stream of the service. Talley's father says faith is what guided him as a police officer and in his life.
He grew into a man that a father could only hope to have. And I just want people to know that all the hype and things you hear about Eric, it's not embellished. It's absolutely true.
Tomorrow, Officer Talley will be laid to rest, and our Denver7 coverage begins at 4:30 a.m. At 10 a.m., we'll have special coverage of the procession leading to the memorial service at 11. You can catch it all right here on Denver7 and on your streaming device.
The growing memorial outside of the King Soopers has served as a place of refuge, a place for people to grieve and pay their respects to the victims. And now one group is working to preserve that memorial for years to come. The Museum of Boulder now wants the items people have created or dropped off to eventually be brought to them to help create something more permanent.
We're going to be very, very intentional and protective of those items, and also provide a place for people to see them if it's family members who didn't get the chance to come to the King Soopers.
The museum will eventually place these signs near the memorial to tell people where to donate items. The museum says it is determined to make a permanent memorial fitting for the victims, their families, and the community.
And right now you can bid on one of these Boulder Strong Avalanche jerseys. Each one will be autographed by the players. All the profits will go to the Colorado Healing Fund. There will also be Colorado Rapids jerseys up for grabs. This auction runs through Thursday, and we have all the information for you on how you can bid on the denverchannel.com. You can also donate directly to the Colorado Healing Fund. Just visit coloradohealingfund.org or text the word Colorado to 20222.
Phase 2 of the vaccine rollout is just days away. Starting this Friday, all Coloradans age 16 and up are eligible to get vaccinated. And now, just because you're eligible, the governor says it still might take a couple of weeks for people to get an appointment.
You will get it, whether it's the week of April 2nd or the following week, the week after that. We still anticipate by mid to late May, so that's only less than 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks from now, everybody who wants the vaccine will have had the vaccine.
Governor Polis says just under 1 million Coloradans are fully vaccinated, and that includes 70% of people 60 and older. We have information on where to sign up for the state's mass vaccine sites on the denverchannel.com. And opening up vaccine eligibility to most Coloradans is a step forward, but then what's next?
Denver7's Ivan Rodriguez is looking for answers about just how important those vaccine cards might turn out to be.
There are questions being asked more and more by those with and without their COVID vaccine. What will life look like after the pandemic? And what doors will open for those who are vaccinated? For Laura Snipin, she has no problem showing proof of her COVID-19 vaccine.
Card, wristband, and tattoo it on my wrist. I don't care. I'm not worried about privacy or anything else, or people wanting to know that I prove a vaccine.
Monday, the White House announced there will be no federal mandate requiring Americans to obtain a vaccination credential or a centralized federal vaccination database. But that doesn't mean private companies aren't moving forward with this concept.
Well, I think it's absolutely important to have a vaccination passport in order to get us all back to work, get us all back to traveling again.
Ping Identity in Denver is one of many companies across the country creating a vaccine passport. They say it would securely show proof of vaccination on your phone.
So our solution offering is focused on providing the ability for the vaccine information to be resident on people's devices. They're able to control it it is able to be kept current with connections to pharmacies.
The ability to do this could also allow access into restaurants, sporting events, or concert venues. For Christian Hardegree, Dean of the School of Hospitality at MSU Denver, the issues of fairness and privacy cannot be ignored.
We know that marginalized and vulnerable populations are more reticent based on history and confidence to get vaccines. And so if we go to a process by which we require vaccinations and we require proof of vaccinations, are we further marginalizing these populations? Governor Polis is not a proponent of proof of vaccination. He'll tell you it's the security of knowing that will get people back to their normal lives.
I think largely, once people have the peace of mind knowing that they're protected, you see that they are willing to go out and be around others a lot more.
Although states like New York have already started requiring proof of vaccination in some areas, it's still unclear in Colorado who might require proof to get through the door. Ivan Rodriguez, Denver7.
A months-long recovery leads to the first of its kind treatment in Colorado.
This is our first COVID transplant.
It's been a long road, but I'm getting stronger each day.
Now, after weeks of treatments and surgeries, one father and his family are in need of your help.
The rest of the world doesn't stop, even when your world stops.
And we hope you enjoyed the warm weather because temperatures are about to plunge.
Windy and warm today. This cold front changes things for tomorrow. How much colder and how much snow?